Good morning, this is Daniel Byrne, aka Pond Boy, and welcome to the Traveling Multi-Species Fishing Show. So, I live in Illinois, and we got pounded with rain, just pounded. So today I wanted to talk about high water and pipes, and not lead pipes, not smoking pipes, and not bloody bagpipes. I'm talking about drainage pipes that are in all the lakes and ponds in the suburban area. And that's good for multi-species. I want to start with bass because there's a few options for bass as compared to the other two. All right, so what happens? All right, so I always want to say suburbia. In suburban Chicago, you have lots of ponds and runoff water, and they're all the same ponds I talk about. Every subdivision has a couple, and it's controlled floods. Corporates have them to control floods. And what happens in big rains? Big rains, they wash off through the lawns, through the fields, through the parking lots, and they all go down to these pipes, and they're all the extra water goes to these ponds through these cement pipes, and it's just loaded with goodies and food for fish, bugs, grass, garbage, whatever fish wants to eat. Little fish are gonna be there getting all the particles. Bass hanging out there trying to get the little fish. You got bugs and stuff for bass and crappie. The carp are eating grass clippings and any piece of food, and as long bugs as well. And they really are a treasure trove of fish. You should hit them anytime you're working a pond or a lake, but after big rains, they can really stack up. For example, there was one day I'll never forget in 2011. I think I have a video up somewhere, maybe Vimeo instead of YouTube because I still used Vimeo back then. Anyway. I caught literally, 30, 40 bass in about a 4-hour period. Smallest one was 1 pound. Biggest one was 5, pushing 6. I had, multiple 3-pounders, which in, my area is actually a really good fish because we don't have Florida strain. We have northern strain bass, and, so anything from 3 to 5 pounds is considered phenomenal. So what was the trick? Well, first of all, the trick is to map out a whole bunch of ponds, in a multitude of subdivisions, and draw yourself a map of where you're going to go. And you're like, well, how can I hit that many? Well, you're only going to fish the pipes for bass, all right? You're going to go hit a pipe. You don't get a fish, move to the next pipe. Don't get a fish, you leave. Now, you're going to want to leave, or you're going to want to stay. Especially if it's one of your favorites. If it's one of your favorites, and you caught some fish there before, it's going to take some self-control to pick up your stuff and leave. But trust me, if the fish are there, you'll have a much better day going from pipe to pipe instead of staying at your favorite lake and having the average day. All right, so how do I handle it? Well, you want to have two things, all right? You want to have something that you're going to fish right in front of the pipe, and you also want to have something that you can fan cast to each side and in front of it, quickly to look for the most active fish. So how do I approach this? I approach it first by using plastics. All right, now you can't just walk up and stand on the pipe because when the water's high, especially if it's a really good rain, on numerous occasions, I'm talking 10, 12 occasions, I stomped up there like an idiot, and 4 or 5 pound bass, sometimes 2 or 3 of them would come out of the pipe, and I'd basically spook the biggest fish out of there. So you want to approach it from a distance slowly. All right, and then any kind of plastics. I prefer Texas rig, so Texas rig worms, like Berkeley 7-inch power worms. Krabby Bass, who's one of our sponsors, makes awesome plastics. They just came out with a brand new ribbon tail. It should be awesome. They have the zipper worm, which I like. They have Krabby Kraken. They came out with a new creature bait. I haven't even tried yet. It's a brand new bait. What's cool about Krabby Bass is you can basically customize your own bait. You order. It takes them a little while because they have to make them. They make them for you, but you go on there. You tell them what color you like, what sparkles you like, what scent you like. Do you want double colors? And you get a lot for your money compared to the other brands, and they're made specifically for you. And I suggest, at least giving Krabby Bass, give them a try, give them an order. So anyway, Krabby Bass makes creature baits, ribbon tails, smaller worms. Make this Kraken. It's like it's almost like a big centipede. It has a bunch of legs on it. I prefer the Texas rig, but basically what you're doing is you want to work in a semicircle around the front of the pipe, slowly with some sort of plastic. So it could be a shaky head, it could be a biscuit jig or mushroom head, it could be even a short drop shot if that's what you're into, a Carolina rig. But Texas rig will definitely keep you right there. And all you're going to do is you're going to pitch it out in front of the pipe, and you're going to lift, let it swing towards you, and drop it. Lift, let the bait swing towards you, and drop it. And for those of you that don't know what a Texas rig is, a Texas rig has a bait, a weight that's shaped like a bullet. Some are made out of lead, some are made out of tungsten. Tungsten are more expensive, but they telegraph a hit a little bit better. But the old school bullet weights will work. So you have a bullet weight, a worm hook, and then your plastic is you put it through the head, then you pull out the bottom of the hook, then you feed the hook back into the body, and making it weedless. So you pitch it out, and basically I work in a half circle around the pipe, and you'll know within the first probably 3 pitches whether there's fish there or not. But I usually try to hit the center, the left, and the right, and then you need some sort of search bait, because you want to see what else is out there. So any shallow crankbait will work. BPS egg, Man's Baby 1 minus, Aurora Lures, Roxanne, or their bait that they will be releasing soon, Lola, are both great. You just want a shallow bait with a wide wobble that can work slow, that'll give off a lot of wake. Top water if it's calm in the morning. Basically, you're sneaking up the pipe, you're working it with that plastic. You don't get a hit. You're going to quickly make 2-3 casts to each side, a couple casts, fan casts out in front of you, and then you're on to the next pipe. All right, so you go to the next pipe. You get one on plastic. All right, and then you cast your crankbait out to the side, and one rolls and misses it. Well, what do? Well, you already have that plastic rigged. And I suggest doing this whenever you're bass fishing. I never just bring one rod unless it's 20 minutes before dinner or something, and I got to run over to the pond and make a couple casts. Other than that, I always have more than one rod. And since now you'll have plastic rigged up anyway. All right, so you cast to the side of one of these pipes and one rolls and you miss. You immediately drop that rod, grab your plastic rod, and softly pitch it in the same place, and you'd be surprised how many times you'll pick up that exact same fish on that plastic. That they missed that faster bait, but when you drop that slower bait in front of them, whap, you'll nail them. Tubes work. Tubes work really well, really good as well. 4-inch, like you can do like real small finesse rigs, like a 4-inch worm or even those icon worms that people use, or cream lures just to make these little tiny plastic minnow baits. Berkeley makes those little Berkeley minnows that you can just hook once through the nose and just let it drop real slow in front of the pipe. And it's amazing just how big these things can get. It's like the biggest fish in the ponds will be on a good rain if you hit it just right. And you'll know after rain. I mean, there's been rains where we just didn't get enough rain. I go and they're not there, or it was too much, or I got there too late. They already been and gone. But right after a big rain, I head to the pipes, for whatever species I want as quickly as I can because I know those fish will be there. Moving on to carp. All right, carp will do the same thing. You'll notice when you're pipe fishing bass, as I did, there's plenty of carp around these exact same pipes, and they're just taking care of the exact same advantage that the bass saw of all of this new food. There's one pipe in particular that but there has to be a really fast, hard rain. It's actually not a pipe; it's a grate where water drops from one thing to another. But if there's enough rain and it's goes high enough and fast enough, there will be hundreds of carp in front of this grate. And I sneak up, and you can use any traditional carp baits really. I use dough baits, I use chickpeas, I use boilies, I use corn, bread. Most of you guys here in North America, if you're running out to a pipe bite and you're not a carp fisherman, you're not going to have, boilies or chickpeas or dough baits made. So you can do a few different things. First thing would be you can take corn and bread. So you put 3 or 4 kernels on a bread, and you just drift it out in front of that pipe. And me, I would be drifting it towards myself in this grate. And if there's a lot of them, sometimes you'll only be able to catch 1 or 2, and they'll spook out. So what you want to try to do, as soon as you hook them, let them swim to the side and quickly fight them away from the pipe. That'll give you more opportunities to get more fish in front of that pipe. After they break up, you want to throw some chum. Chum is bait that you throw in that'll attract them. So throw in some of your corn or a couple pieces of bread. Keep them in the area so you can catch more fish. There's some baits that you wouldn't think about trying for carp, but every kid has used hot dogs. Carp like hot dogs. You can take a hot dog and put it on a hook. What I would prefer to keep it on is if you learn how to do a hair rig, it makes it a lot harder for the fish to steal. Like a blocked luncheon meat, something you can cut into cubes like ham or mystery meat or even better, Spam. You can cut this into tiny cubes, and you can throw it out for chub, and you can cut little bigger cubes, and you can put them directly on a hook. They have these, I think in Europe they sell these little screws that you can screw your meat onto, or a hair rig. And you can use those. I had a buddy used to use Vienna sausage. I know people to use, take a stick of pepperoni and just cut little circles of pepperoni and use those for carp. And the cool thing about that meat is, if there's channel cats in that lake, and they're in front of that pond, you're going to get them as well. So, I mean, how cool is that? And, I mean, it's awesome. And then after rain, also with carp, if you look along the sides of the shore, start looking for, you'll see them tailing. They'll have their noses right up against whatever weeds that they couldn't get their noses into when the water was lower. So now the water's higher, and they can get their noses into vegetation and bugs and stuff they couldn't before. And you'll see clouds, and you'll see their tails. And again, you're going to have to stalk them. So you're going to have to take a really long rod, longest rod you have, all right, and you're only going to be fishing, in carp in front of these pipes. I would start with just, some sort of float, a foot or two down, maybe one split shot, and because they're mostly going to be popping up on the surface and grabbing stuff, so you want to be right where their faces are. And this holds true for fish that are along the side. So you want to sneak up on them, and you want to cast, stand away so they have excellent eyesight. Stand away from them, cast over them, bring it in really slow, right up against that shore, and they'll be hugging that shore, and that's exciting stuff. And they're also stressful. You're sitting there watching them, and you can see their tail right next to your float. They're not hitting it. All of a sudden, they bump it once, and it's not like a lot of times it's not a bam and go. It's they mouth it a little bit. So you're sitting there watching play with it, and your sweat's just pouring down your face. You're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and that can be phenomenal. So, so after you're hitting pipes, if you're going for a carp, quickly look around shoreline for shore feeders. So you can pick them off as well. So the last fish I want to talk about for pipe fishing, and this is one case where you might not have to move, is crappies. If you have a good crappie lake right after a storm, especially in spring and the fall, the summer not so much because they won't always pull in because of the water temperature, but crappies will stack up in front of these pipes as well. Crappies, since they're a schooling fish, a lot of times you can stay in one pipe all afternoon if it's a good one. So pick like 3 or 4 of your favorite crappie ponds, and what I would suggest is, stuff that's easy for them to pick up. So I would mostly, if you have the opportunity, get crappie minnows, because then they're just going to be waiting there, they're going to hit it, and it's going to be done. Crappie minnows, waxworms, spikes, small larvae. Then you can go to microplastics, ice jigs, stuff like that. But you want something that you can just let it go in that current that's coming out of that pipe and just give it a twitch if it's not a live bait. And they will be absolutely phenomenal. So whenever the water's real high, and especially river fishermen, when the water's high like this, for example, I'm like, oh, well, I still got my backwaters. Well, I found out last night that some of my backwaters, what was making the backwaters, the islands and such, are underwater, which means, I'm out of luck. So my first chance fishing, I'm probably going to have to go pipe fishing because all my river spots are pretty much hosed, at least for a couple days if we don't get any rain. So next time you get a really high rain and it's flowing through these pipes, and or consistent rain throughout the week, keep visiting the pipes, especially if you got a few in your neighborhood. Just keep visiting them, see what happens. Try them for bass, try them for carp, try them for crappies. And you can always if you're doing carp or something or crappies, you're gonna be sitting there for a while. And like bass, if you want to throw out a catfish rod, throw out a catfish rod while you're doing it. I suggest always having more than one rod, and I always suggest having more than one plan. Hardcore bass guys, they'll fish for bass and that's it. Well, I fish for carp, I fish for crappie. If I go to the pipes and I don't hit any bass, if I don't already have it in the car, I quickly go home, I grab the carp stuff, I grab some carp bait, I switch species. And you'll hear me say this time and time again, since I am a multi-species angler, having multiple spots and multiple species will increase your catch extraordinarily gigantic amounts. I mean, if I don't go to a spot and I don't catch